First of all, thank you everybody for being with us today. We know it's holiday season, but it's also a great time to reflect on some amazing things that have happened over the year and some plans for the next year. And one of the amazing things that has happened in HTEC during 2021 is that we joined forces with Momentum Design Lab, which is one of the leading product design studios out of the Silicon Valley. And we're very excited about the prospect of what this means for both HTEC and Momentum, but also most importantly, what it means for our clients and our teams in terms of the amazing projects we will get to work on in the future. So the objective of this panel discussion was to bring this topic closer to all of you in the sense of why design thinking is important, how we get to work on clients, and also look at it from both the product design but also the engineering perspective. Joining me today for this discussion are Mark Scrivener, Nikola Gladovic, Connor Carr, and Peter McNulty. Thank you guys for taking the time to talk to our audience today. Without further ado, in the sake of time, I just want to wish you all a great discussion and really looking forward to hearing you all speak. So I think Mark is taking the floor first, or Connor, please go ahead, guys.
Fantastic. Thanks, Katerina. Thank you, everyone, for joining. This is, as Katerina said, something very close to our hearts at Momentum. It's a pleasure to be talking to you today about design thinking. It's something we've been doing for 18 years and something we will be doing in the future. And let's see how the value can come through from us at Momentum. So I'm just going to give a quick introduction. Bit about design thinking, and then we'll talk about what the plan is for the next hour and a half. The main tenet of design thinking is empathy for the people you're trying to design for. This is about really instilling the thoughts of design thinking within all of our projects at HTEC and beyond. And it's understanding and hopefully from this session, I'm sure a lot of you already know, but hopefully from this session there will be lots of good takeaways and good discussions we can have about design thinking. Today's presentation, design thinking, as I said, it needs to be core consideration of HTEC clients in 2022. This is about product value. This is really about understanding from an academic approach here for design thinking. And so, as Katerina says, on the panel today, we have got Peter, Head of Design and User Experience at Momentum. Just a little introduction to yourself, Peter, please.
Well, good morning, good afternoon. I'm Peter McNulty, Head of Design. I have been doing this for quite a while. So been living it, breathing it for quite a while. I'm very excited to share some of the things that we learned and some of the different tactics that we use. So looking forward to the chat.
Fantastic. And Nicola Gladovic.
Hi guys, I'm Nicola. I've been kind of using this for the past couple of years and kind of looking forward to using it even more in higher capacities. So kind of sharing our story from that angle.
Great, thank you. And just a little introduction about myself. I'm the Managing Director for the London office of Momentum Design Lab. I've been with Momentum for coming up to 5 years now, and it's opened my eyes up with the design thinking, all of those elements that really push the boundaries of a product. I've worked within product for 15, 20 years, and so this is exciting just to push this forward more and more. Now, we've got at the bottom there, moderated by Connor. Connor, a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. So I'm the senior delivery lead in the London office for Momentum. I've been in relatively new to Momentum itself, I think coming out to 6 months. Previous to that, in other lives, I've been a product manager and project manager for all kinds of industries, from digital marketing, gaming, gambling to e-commerce and app development. So for 10 years, kind of have that experience. Though my brain is infinitesimally small compared to the 3 panelists we have here, so I will let them do most of the talking, lest I embarrass myself in front of higher beings.
Okay, so the plan, I'm just going to do an overview of design thinking, get us in the mood, talk about a few things, and then we'll got a few preset questions. And from those preset questions, feel free to start to add your questions into the chat. Connor will be, as the moderator, looking at these chats. Any of the questions he'll be pulling out. So towards the end, we will then have an open floor Q&A. So the first thing here, and this is a real introduction into design thinking, and this is what we do at Momentum to get our new hires. It's the perfect question. If you had unlimited budget, if you had unlimited resources, how would you go about building a groundbreaking brand new product? You're an existing organization, how would you do it? If anyone wants to throw some suggestions in the chat there, Connor, if you can read any of those out.
Get in the comments, guys. This is your chance to bring up your wonderful ideas.
So this is the thing, what we ask organizations, you've got unlimited budget, you've got unlimited resources, how would you go about building a groundbreaking new product? What would you start with? What would you ask? How do you know this product's going to work? All of these basic, simple questions, but the fundamental questions, you have an idea. How do you test that idea? Anything in the chat so far, Connor?
Not that I can see. Come on, guys. You've got unlimited budget and time. How would you start?
Okay, well, what I'll do then, I'll throw this out to Nicola Gladovic.
Yeah.
You've got unlimited budget, unlimited resources, and you've got a client come to you and said, I want a brand new groundbreaking product. I've got an idea. Where do you start? Where's the starting point?
I must say, kind of my role most of the time is to contain that creativity and try to make it realistic. So I would say, first, of course, you want to motivate the people involved to kind of suggest their ideas, see where the creativity comes from and what kind of are their passions and where they want to create value and to who to want to create value. So basically, most of the time starts with empowering people to get those ideas out and write them on paper or share them with the others in the group who are working together on some of the concepts. So that's where I would start. And once kind of you have the type of energy around the room, the ideas just get out and you can then pinpoint the winners compared to the losers and kind of move to the other steps of kind of seeing what's realistic and what's feasible.
Sure. So that's good answers, and that's what we get a lot of. What we do want to do is throw the design thinking into this, and we take a step back. When you start to build a product, the Kernel of Uncertainty is really important here. If we start building at the very early stage, if we start to do prototypes at the early stage, if we start to do an MVP at this early stage, the estimation versus variability is huge. ×4 at the top, ×0.25 at the bottom. This is where you really don't know what you need to be building. This is your playground in effect. Now, the more you can find out through design thinking, the better your chances are, and the less amount of engineering you need to do, the less amount of development or reworking of development or changing direction. So it's really interesting that the more you want to go across here from inception to elaboration, construction to done, the more you get across here, the better your uncertainty is more about certainty, about what you're building. This is when you then know how much you're going to quote for. You know how much the cost is going to be, how much time it's going to be. You've played around, you've understood who your users are. So to get to that point,
Just before we go on, Mark, I just want to read out some of these comments. It kind of blew up as soon as we started talking. So, and I apologise for my British ignorance here when I'm pronouncing names. I will do my best. So user research has come up quite a lot. We've had market research from Bogdan, market research to see if there's demand for that product, ideate product solutions upon user research results, find emerging and promising fields from Ivan there, estimate problem that you can solve by research. So a lot of user research, user first focused answers, which is great. I also want to call out Milos, who says that we should make a video game based on something popular like Squid Games. Back to you.
Well, look, they're great first comments, because this is it. Design thinking stripped down. It's a scientific approach to better help a product succeed. This is understanding the heuristics. We'll talk about heuristics in a bit. It's understanding user journeys, customer journey map, empathy mapping. Ethnographic studies, understanding the users, understanding their different traits, maybe their jobs to be done, their personas, the pain points, the value proposition, the opportunities. All of these things are scientific approaches. Now, at Momentum, we use a thing here called the design maturity model, and this is our version of the design maturity model. And I'm just going to quickly go through this. Now, level 1 and 2 is your engineering focus. It's your expert opinions. Now, Nicola Gladovic, you told me quite a few things that were in this level 1 and 2. This was about building, this was about prototyping, this was about looking at the assumptions and building out. What we do want to do is we want to get further up to the level 5s and 4s, and that's where really design thinking sits. Level 3, let's start. Level 1 is your design, it's your coding, it's your fonts and colors. Level 2 goes into your interface design, how the page looks, feels, the wireframes, all of those elements that go together. Now we're going up to level 3, and we're going further away from the expert and engineering focused. We're further away from an expert who knows what's happened in the past or who knows his domain knowledge. This is going about the product workflow, how it all interacts with each other, how the modeling goes together, the architecture, the whole framework. And then we switch over, and now we're looking at level 4s, 5s, and 6. It's starting to become more evidence approach, more human focused. And so level 4 is about the product strategy, understanding the user research. Someone mentioned user research, user personas, customer journey mapping, stories, tasks, and features. So this is the product strategy, how that product plays within the marketplace. And then we go up to level 5, sometimes called customer experience, also called product-led growth, PLG, where it's about really understanding from the product how that grows out. So service mapping, understanding churn of the users, the product marketing, the brands, the personas, the buyer personas. So not necessarily the user personas, but the buyer personas. Who are the ones who are going to be buying this, advocates for this? Onboarding of products, that's very key. Admin, community, how this all sits within an environment, the education, how to use the product. All of these things are led by the product. So the growth of a product is successful about understanding all of these elements. And this is what we really want to find out, is the human focus, the evidence focus. Business design, organizations have their business design. They have their cultures of values already done. So how does that break down? Well, let's have a look. Quite a few people doing design thinking, and they're doing it in different ways, but it's really about understanding what is this purpose, the design thinking element, who's leading the way here. Now, one thing that we always refer back to, and this is sometimes mixed in with personas, sometimes mixed in with value proposition, but really understanding what is the job to be done. So if we take back to that challenge at the very start, where we said, if you had unlimited budget, unlimited resources, what would you do? Well, first of all, let's try and see what we're trying to accomplish, a goal, an objective, what we're trying to achieve, what is the job to be done? If you've got personas, if you've got types of people, what are they trying to resolve? What are they trying to avoid? Is there anything they're trying to accomplish? And that job's to be done can then be played back. And let's look at those organizations again. Henry Ford, he looked at jobs to be done because in those times, everyone had horse and carriage. And horse and carriage, when you've got 4 horses, everyone wanted 5 horses, bigger horses, stronger horses. The carriage, they wanted more wheels on the carriage. But Henry Ford looked at it from a job to be done perspective, and he went, if I asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses, but everybody wanted to get from A to B, so he created the motor engine. He did that from the jobs to be done concept. He did that from design thinking. Netflix, this is home entertainment. Now, before you had Netflix, everybody had to go and get a video from the local video shop, rewind it, put it in your video player, pay for it, take it back. Now Netflix went, well, no, it's home entertainment. So the job to be done is give you home entertainment at home. The same for Uber, Airbnb, all of these organizations really look at what is the purpose from the user perspective. Now that's finding that aha moment. That's finding something. That does not happen overnight. If it does, great, that's a success. But really, when organizations, clients, companies come to us and say, I want to build this, let's really understand what is that aha moment. If we've got that aha moment, let's justify it with quite a few other tactics. So firstly, we look at the current state. We look at where are you in the market? What's the current state of the product? What's the current state of the users? What's the current state of the whole eco map and environment? So once you've had an understanding of your current product, you can then begin to imagine the future. To do that, you do things like ethnographic studies. Ethnographic studies is just a simple word for speaking to your users, speaking to your key users, understanding who are their personas, starting to map out those key questions to really see if this product's going to fly, this idea is going to fly. It may be doing different core user group in studies. It could be about understanding certain traits of certain people, or when they're going to be using it, or how they're going to be using it, or what's their current pain points for other products of similar nature. Now, within design thinking, this is a scientific approach. Some organizations use it very much to the letter, the 10 usability heuristics from Jakob Nielsen. And it's a set of lists where when we look at a product, you can start to see the visibility system status, the match between system and user control and freedom. So all of these pieces are general basic UX that really helps solve a problem. And this is about the experience of the product and improving the product through the heuristic evaluation. Now, we can only do this by understanding the users. A lot of people like to put personas down in their projects. Persona is about understanding what type of people, and we all know this, and what their traits are, what their pain points, what their opportunities. But we use this as a guiding tool alongside jobs to be done. And then all of that comes into a map. Any kind of map that we want to do, it normally follows stages. It normally follows the progression of users. For this particular one on the bottom left-hand side, it is about different types of user. Their green line there was their traditional users, the data-heavy users. And we approached it, well, why don't we look at the less data sophisticated users, the orange line below. And as you go through the stages, the more activities, the more tasks, you get that maturity and that education. This is all the product-led growth into the same level as the mature users. So what we want to do is we want to understand through the customer journey mapping. This starts to then pinpoint if your idea is worthwhile. It starts to understand the opportunities. It gives you the insights, gives you the pain points, the experience. And so from all of that, we write out user stories. And this is where we came to what Nicola was talking about. It's we've understood the problem, we've discovered, we've defined, and now we've got a definition. So now we've got a definition, now we've got an idea of what we want to be building, now we've got some research behind us from design thinking. Let's start to look at developing and delivering. So we're prototyping, we're testing, refining to get to a solution. So here's a few examples from Momentum. You know, we're not spending weeks and weeks and weeks doing these prototypes. These are vision concepts. These are quick ideas to really understand if this has legs in the marketplace. We can put these in clickable prototypes. We can really just play around with what this is. And then we roll back into these same users we spoke at the very start. Because these same users at the very start, we're trying to tackle their problems, their pain points. These are generally our users we want to convert. If we can convert them, and we can convert more and more people with good marketing, with good promotion, with their advocacy. And that's product-led growth. Now, we also need to validate all of this. We do quick prototyping. And the approach here is that we've not finished with a final definition of what this product is yet, because we're constantly thinking, we're designing, we're thinking, we're build, measure, learn. And this is the iterative approach. If we do want to roll out an MVP, let's roll out the MVP, but let's prototype a few little things at the side. Let's keep testing, keep build, measure, and learn, and validate these solutions with our users. So all of that was quite a long talk there. That was a lot of different actions that we do, different processes, and there's a lot more. IDEO, an organization, came up with a thing called a sprint. Now, I don't know how many people are aware of the IDEO sprint, but this is a 5-day sprint that kind of wants to tackle as many of those things, but so quickly. And the whole purpose of it
Oh, we might be losing you, Mark. All right. Whilst Mark kind of gets his connection back, we can do one of two things. We've got some questions already in the chat which we can go to, or Peter, I don't know if you can take over the IDEO sprint.
We can definitely. Sounds like Mark is trying to get back. So basically, well, talking about the IDEO sprint. So this is a process that we definitely do. It's one of the tools in our toolbox. So this is similar to how we here at Momentum do a design workshop. So these are multiple days, and we normally set up a challenge. So basically, using all of the tools that Mark kind of outlined, understanding we do all of the current state assessment, all of the initial interviews and the research before going into this type of method. So basically do a big, we do an exercise and we identify the challenge, map it out. And then we, as participants in the room, we do sketch. We go ahead and start sketching ideas. I guess we're moving on to the preset questions. So why don't we take the first one? So why don't we take how to validate an idea? So as Mark kind of stole my thunder, obviously you mentioned a lot of the different steps in our process. So typically where a customer comes to us is really, they have an idea or they're in search for ideas. So with design thinking, we help them understand what are the needs of the customer, as well as balance it what the product wants to do or what does it need to achieve. And it's really, we help customers understand the value of the experience, as well as these frameworks help us to define, categorize, capture, organize the customer needs as well as the product needs in one space. And then we validate throughout the process. So in the initial interviews, we go ahead and validate the insights gathered in those conversations. We go into the IDEO methodology and the workshops and really get those ideas and those concepts onto a collaboration space that we can actually have a discussion and put in prioritization as well as match through the journey mapping or service mapping or whatever activities that we're doing along the way. Mark kind of took my good idea was that we use the same interview participants when we talk to it at the first step of our process, and we bring them back once we have a prototype and we actually have them go through what the design that we actually created and get more feedback and we iterate. It's all about learning as you go, to go fast as well as, get ideas out there to actually be usable and put them in front of the user to learn more. So that does this waste build time or design time? It saves times, guys. It's quicker to discuss the ideas before you have something tangible, right? So we can definitely go through this exercise, put the ideas in the right priority, do deeper exploration or different additional research to really understand the need. It's, think about the abstract and actually making something tangible. And then we do prototypes, quick prototypes, and get them in front of users to actually get, learnings quicker. It never turns out to be anything we use. I'm not really quite sure about this question. So let's use the job to be done framework that Mark walked us through. The whole purpose of that is really to understand the requirements. It's gather these higher level themes of what we're trying to achieve. These do not go stale. So they are guiding principles along the way throughout the whole process. So yes, through the design thinking exercises, as well as through the design, as well as through development, it's always something to go back to and validate against. So it's really setting the North Star or setting the strategy that we are going to be creating this great experience, and we can go back to this framework to really validate and understand, are we hitting our goal?
Thanks, Peter.
The last, yeah.
I just wanted to, if we've got a little bit of time, I wanted to turn that question to, so it never turns out to be any use and maybe design thinking that worked for HTEC over to Nicola. Just in the context of rapid prototyping and code that you kind of get something out or get a product out there, that maybe it's not long-term code or something that you reuse. So how does that, what would you kind of say to that problem or that comment, Nicola?
So I can tell you that kind of we had two types of challenges, right? One is kind of finding the right problem solution fit, trying to find and solve a gap for a certain group of people to do a certain job, and kind of enabling to identify how to solve that specific problem. And where we were kind of coming first as HTEC was what is a technology feasible solution that can serve the purpose for solving the problem, right? The next stage and how it now evolves is you're trying to see how that problem can go to a certain group or a market and kind of how to scale that solution. So where we came from is from the back. We were trying to enable growth of a solution in a market. Then we saw that we can also solve kind of specific problems for our clients. And that way we kind of hit the full design thinking mantra and went into rapid prototyping. So we first came as service providers who can enable scale and volume, kind of just from a feasibility perspective. But now we kind of see that there's a place of services to our clients where we can kind of come in early and enable faster validation. Sometimes, as you guys mentioned, it can be with design with clickable prototypes, but some clients really want to have a bona fide product in the market that's actually something that customers can use and have real traction, not only kind of design prototypes and user interviews done on the prototypes. And that's why we kind of are introducing a new type of service where instead of months, we are developing something in weeks and enabling customers to get to the market faster, and that way validate faster, and that way iterate even faster, and kind of win the battle in the market with the product there.
Amazing, thanks very much. Any comments from either Mark or Peter on that before we move on to the next set of questions?
No, I'll just reiterate. So Momentum, 99% of the projects we do, we have some sort of component of design thinking included. So this is it's in our blood. So we basically use these tactics really to set the stage of the experience for success. So, very excited about the opportunity that, now being part of HTEC and, doing actually different types of prototyping, to validate the right ideas of the key learnings that we generate.
Amazing, thank you, Peter. This first one I'm gonna target at Mark and then to Nicola to kind of respond. So, does this only work, or isn't this only for large initiatives? Does this work on smaller initiatives or medium term?
Yeah. Okay. So hopefully everyone can hear me and I'm not breaking up. This can be for smaller initiatives. Large initiatives, it helps save time. It helps save and
Daisy, have we lost Mark again? Or is that just me?
Yeah. So I think where Mark was going was, yes, it is twofold. Yes, it works for small as well as large. Large, typically we break them up into smaller chunks, and we use this to guide our process. Mark, are you back? I guess not. So it's small bursts. So if there's a key feature of a larger experience that we have to design for, we can use these frameworks really to establish how does that new feature fit into a larger experience. So it's very useful on quick iterations, as well as getting something into beta to be able to validate.
Absolutely perfect, Peter. And then more from an engineering point of view, Nicola.
So so kind of definitely, I would say you start with big problems and you kind of try to break them down into smaller ones. I think that's the same in engineering, and from an engineering perspective, this is just applying the design thinking methodology, how you break down those problems from a kind of customer perspective, not only building blocks for engineers.
Thank you, Nicola. I'm kind of also trying to chat to Mark and make sure he knows that we can't hear him. So something that is kind of close to my heart as well, and I'm really interested in. So, Nicola, we'll start with you. How is HTEC evolving towards design thinking, and maybe kind of from a pre-momentum acquisition and post-momentum kind of? Is it something that HTEC have been on a journey and momentum is part of that, or is it something starting with momentum? How's it working?
So I can tell you that we identified that this is an opportunity for us to extend our services for our customers, I would say 3, 4, 5 years back. And we were looking for how to solve that problem. And I guess the first solution was acquiring Construct around a year and a half ago, and creating our product innovation office that kick off all of this, I would say, product services for our clients, product design thinking, implementing, I would say, discovery sessions with our customers and enabling them to understand the problems that they want to solve and how to create those proper roadmaps for engineering. I would say evolution, acquisition of momentum is just the evolution of the process, increasing that capability from one standpoint, increasing also our market presence, where you guys are currently working to kind of enhance our capabilities there, get some stickiness, but also kind of extend your capabilities to provide a fuller service to your customers. And that's why I think the harmony between momentum services and HTEC services really work. The goal is the same, and that's to provide an excellent service to our customers. And this just extends the portfolio of services that we can provide and kind of give them the full solution of a problem, right? From an idea to a go-to-market strategy, to a product in the market that's being maintained, to a full dedicated team of smart people who are there to help them day by day. So that's what HTEC now is able to do from start to finish. Basically, from an idea and a concept that wants to be solved, and a budget that's there to solve it, to kind of how do you allocate the budget and get to a proper solution in the market.
Thank you, Nicola. And then I guess we've kind of covered that third question as well. So I might turn it to you, Peter, and just maybe turn the question slightly on its head. So how do you feel that MDL joining with HTEC how can we help as Momentum help HTEC in this direction? What can we offer?
Well, the term has been floating around the tip of the spear. So we can definitely support introductions as well as starting the journey, defining the product experience and really then deliver. So we can, definitely give value on creating and incubating and getting some ideas up to a stage and validate, and then go into graduate to the next level. It's really, okay, let's do the right work, the way that I call the right architecture, really to set up an experience or brand for success. I'm very excited about having the availability to go to end-to-end. We do a lot of end-to-end work, but we didn't have any developers, so we had partners. So having that relationship to really bounce ideas off of new technology is really exciting as well. So those are some items that I have identified that I'm very excited about.
Absolutely wonderful. Mark's video is starting to look a little bit clearer, so I might risk it. Mark, do you have anything to add to not necessarily that question, but any of the three that perhaps you missed out on?
Yeah, if you can hear me, I think we've created over 18 years, $42 billion in value. And so we want to help products and organizations succeed. This is only going to get better with HTEC because we are going to be closer as partners. And this is about showing the value throughout every single process continually. And that's how we can help grow the value of all of our organizations that we work with.
Some great answers, guys. Wonderful stuff. And yeah, heard you loud and clear, Mark. So hopefully you're back in the panel. Cool. I'll start with Nicola on this last question. So I think maybe a little bit of context around Velocity Labs, and then talk about how it fits into that design thinking.
Yeah, so as I mentioned previously, so Velocity Labs intend to be another type of service for our customers. Generally, we are providing, I would say, agile engineering at scale. That was our kind of core product. Now, then we extended it with product design, product services, where you guys kind of come into play as well. And now we are looking how to patch the things together to enable the customers to move to engineering faster, but kind of be frugal from a budgeting perspective, so they can move to the market easier and not spend too much money in the process. Then came the idea of Velocity Labs, where we would kind of put, I would say, speedy engineers, full stack engineers who are capable of patching solutions together to validate them quickly as concepts before we kind of staff around them and create a full dedicated team to continuously work for the next couple of years. We kind of at HTEC try to make relationships that last a long time. So this is just to patch the early stage of the relationship and enable it to kind of transition gracefully.
Nicola, I think what also I'd like to say is that it's okay to fail, and it's okay for organizations and products to fail, and we can find out quicker through Velocity Labs. We can find out if this is working through Velocity Labs. And so this is the okay point of seeing if it can work or not.
Yeah, that's definitely true. The goal is, of course, to enable the clients to do it easier than harder. Yeah. It's easier to fall from a shorter height than a huge tree, right? It hurts less. So this just enables the clients, I guess, to get the feedback faster, be proper, and to pivot easier, right? When it's a big project or a big kind of a lot of resources allocated, it's really hard to pivot and be nimble. And when you're just validating a concept before you have a kind of a solution fit, you need that nimbleness to get there faster. So Velocity Labs is just an operating model that enables that from an engineering perspective, right? You guys kind of do it from I would say, ideation and prototyping and validating the concept. This is just the feasibility part to stay in that in the operating mode before you put kind of all the proper eggs in the proper basket and go all in.
Yeah.
Brilliant stuff, guys. Comes back to that build, measure, learn, doesn't it? And make them failure part of the journey and embracing it rather than trying to avoid it.
Exactly.
Cool. All right. So we have a list of audience-generated questions that I will move on to, unless there's kind of any final comments that Mark, Nicola, or Peter you want to make. No pressure. Just wanted to give you a last chance. Cool. All right. Cool. So first question from Milan. And again, I apologize if anyone's name is mispronounced in this. Question is, what if we have a startup? How do you find the real data about the users if we don't have any? Don't have any users, I think that is. Let's pass it over to Mark, and then Peter and Nicola, you can chime in.
Yep, perfect. So we do this all the time. We have 52% of scale-up startups have been acquired because we've created value for them. We've got them their next Series A, Series B funding. Users are generally the real people who are going to be using that product. Now, if we don't have actual users, we're doing it for a cryptocurrency at this very moment in time. We are looking at who their potential personas are, and we are asking friends and family. We are rolling it out to general public. We do those reach outs. You will find users. The most important thing about users, though, we want to speak to the people who don't want to use this product, who are against it, or we really want to understand their pain points and their barriers to entry. If you imagine you are in a supermarket and you are trying to sell the latest cheese, you've got your cheese board, and that person who's like, no, I don't like cheese, don't, give it a go, give it a try, and then you get better feedback from that person rather than the person who always wants to use your product. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have the right type of personas. What you do want to do is find out the reasonings why that persona doesn't have it, or like that idea, or if it's a value. Now, you can always find users. It's about adapting it, and it doesn't have to be in a stage at the start. You can do it all the way through this process. If you're build, measure, learn, you might get a cracking user in week 4. That week 4 that automatically that feedback will then help you adapt and change your product straight away. And that's the whole purpose of being responsive and agile and really adaptive to the feedback from any user. You do take that with a pinch of salt, though. If we do speak to organizations where there's lots of key stakeholders, that then rolls us back to the expert opinion, because they know what they want. It's what's happened in the field. We want to be speaking to general users who are going to use it and adopt it. Sorry, Peter.
No worries, no worries. I was going to add on. So Mark is spot on. So it's a two-sided coin. So we definitely start with the founders in a startup and understand what the vision is, understand where they want to go. But how to get users, which is the more valuable, obviously understanding what the product should do, what it needs to achieve. We look at the competition, so understand what other products are out there. Understand the landscape. If this is a disruption product that doesn't exist, we look at comparables or other kind of interaction models that we know the experience needs to do, and we find examples of other products that do a very similar, maybe certain function. And then we obviously, glean that knowledge and understand, okay, who are their users, and see if we can talk to them. So there is a wide, friends and family as well, but it's also understanding, what we're trying to design for, and try to find a user base that we can talk about and have those right conversations.
Excellent stuff, guys. Okay, we are about half an hour in, half an hour away from the end, I think. And we've got 10 questions here. So I'm going to spend 3 minutes trying to stay strict on that, 3 minutes on each question. Maybe time for one more if anyone's got an absolutely burning desire to ask it. Second question from Nicola here. So have you considered organising some internal workshops to help people familiarise themselves with some design thinking techniques? I'm going to pass to Peter and Nicola, I think. Whoever wants to take this first.
Yeah, so definitely we have talked about it, having a conversation of how do we meld together. So there has been some talk of some bags sort of conversations to share learning, and that is something that I'm very excited about, is really ramping up you guys with what we do, and I also would expect the same on your side to understand how you operate. I enjoyed my opportunity to be in Belgrade a few weeks ago. And it got a high level, but I wanted to do the deep dive. So yes, the plan is that we are definitely going to do some knowledge share, some workshops, as soon as possible.
Yeah, so I just kind of want to add up how we did it. So basically, the PI office or product innovation office, one of the roles is, of course, providing services to our clients, enabling kind of that top of the spearhead, as Peter mentioned. The kind of second purpose is, I would say, knowledge management and knowledge sharing around the company, and enabling other parts of the company to adopt that knowledge and know-how, and apply it to the other clients that maybe didn't have the chance to use it, or kind of teach the new tier of people that are coming to kind of raise their level and be better professionals. So kind of we invested a lot into a career development office that has that process in mind, and we are applying competencies around product management, product design, and sharing it with the rest of the people, creating product kind of personal development plans for them, and kind of enabling them to learn. So product design thinking is just one of the tools to enable their competencies to raise, where we have a system from the career development office and personal development plans that enables people to apply them. I would say we have the structure also for engineering and everything else. So I would say design thinking is just one of the tools we are helping people to learn here and apply.
Wonderful, thank you. I'm going to move on quickly just to make sure we get through all of these. So probably one for Peter from Ivan. What are the mechanisms to get feedback on designs besides directly from clients or users?
Well, we have a couple different ways that we use. We've done.
Oh, we might have lost Peter. He's being very still and thoughtful.
let me take that then, Connor.
Process we do a lot of co-creation as well as full transparency. So we get feedback in real time. We actually give access to our files. So our Figma files, our client, we give access, and they actually have the ability to enter comments and feedback in real time right into the files. And then the next day we discuss those. So there's a couple different techniques. Communication is always key. So we are, whatever medium we use, Slack, we use Zoom, we use email, on any Basecamp, and many different tools to collect that type of feedback along the way. So it's not just in those collaboration sessions. It's all about understanding and getting those good ideas and making those changes and adapting.
Peter, it might also be worthwhile mentioning that it's your Google Analytics, your event triggers, your Hotjars, understanding the actual performance through the user interactions is really key. Now, to do that, you need to set up metrics. You need to set up funnels. You need to understand where they are dropping off. And these are all through the key bits through product-led growth. And product-led growth, it's about understanding onboarding. It's about putting in maybe trapdoors, secret buttons and hidden buttons that if someone clicks on that to see we've got a new feature coming out soon, they click on it. It's not available right now, but put in your email address to see when it's available. These are the metrics that we want to find out is going to lead the product into the next iterations. Also, if something's broken, QA would be fantastic on every single project. But if a user can tell us about, fill your feedback in, those kind of, FIFO reviews on e-commerce sites, all of those feedback loops, we want to get from the users as well, because the users are advocates. They will drive the next iterations of the products. So if they are passionate about it, or if they have a problem that they are very much using this product, but they just need one tweak, let's hear them. Now, we can do that on many feedback channels.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Yeah, I didn't even cover kind of the initial onset, so I appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Question here from someone's name who I'm almost certainly going to pronounce wrong, so I apologize. So Slobodan has asked, do you usually do a SWOT analysis? For those who don't know, SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I'll put this to all three, I think, whoever wants to take this one.
Yes, we definitely use that. It really depends on, again, on the client and the need, really what the problem is that we need to solve. So we do definitely have that activity in our toolbox. So that is part of design thinking, really, to understand kind of what the landscape as well as what the product needs to do. So yes, the short answer is yes.
Thank you, Peter. One here from Igor, which I'm going to point at Nicola. So how do we embed momentum knowledge and skills into the current and new HTEC products?
I would say it's easier to implement it with new because it's a greenfield setup, so we can kind of get you guys in at an early stage in the collaboration. But we are trying to do it twofold, right? One is when there is clear opportunities to have kind of a direct reach out to you guys and kind of engage you in the communication collaboration with the clients. And the second is, I would say, through a kind of overall company perspective, is, as I mentioned previously, drawing out the competencies and the new skills you can provide to our workforce, working product design and product management, and enabling the career development office to kind of create programs that we will give our employees to follow through their personal development plans. So one is direct kind of exposure to it, working directly with you guys on certain projects, and the other is training over time and kind of harnessing the skill set through practice or some other exercises inside the company.
Amazing, Nicola. Thank you. Anything, Peter or Mark, you would add, or should we move on to the next one?
No, what I do want to say is that we we continually have working documents. You continually evolve something. So even if it's a SWOT analysis, that does not stop just then. We do current state assessments. We do then in play. We do future thinking. That's always going to evolve. It's always going to be a good point to, at any point, just assess where we are and then take it forward. And it does not need to stop at any point. It always needs to be a live working environment for asking those questions all the time.
That dovetails really nicely into Felipe's question here. So we've talked a lot about how we would kick a project off, or how this process applies to a infinite time and budget startup product. What it would be the difference, or would it even benefit applying this design thinking process to a company's internal or existing products? Mark, I'm going to start you off with that.
Yeah, so when we look at organizations, they sit within two parts of the hype curve. The first one is a product, a startup, a scale up that's going through its funding, that's going through all that elements. The next organization we look at is the type that has been around for some time. They've got their products, they've got their teams all set up. They're trying to get that injection of energy of some sort, and they're trying to get that aha moment or understand the competition. So we sit with them and we work with them and we dovetail into what they're doing. But a lot of organizations that want that, they need that spearhead of some new direction. And so we can help them understand, if they're not that mature within the design thinking, these different tactics to then take that forward. And so we will work in partnership with them.
Great stuff, Mark. Anything to add, Peter?
Yeah, so I heard internal projects, and the answer is yes. So if there is internal projects or products that HTEC or we want to create, these frameworks, yes, they do. It's the same work, right? So it's the same way to gather the right knowledge to move that product idea forward. So it's not any different, right? So it's external as well as internal. These frameworks work.
Yes, I would only want to add that kind of it speeds up the process of transitioning from, it kind of freshens up the perspective. It introduces other perspectives that you kind of didn't have in mind, and also enables you to do that fast. You don't have to spend too much time, I would say, especially with internal operations, to kind of get that validation or a buy-in that can enable you to then move forward with some initiative. So right, in a bigger organization, you need to have a validation to go to the next step or kind of scale up the solution further. And design thinking is a process that can help you get that relatively fast, which is kind of a good way to enable yourself to move forward, or not, if it's not a good idea, right? So.
Wonderful stuff from everyone there. Thank you very much. Question here from Dragoner. What steps from design thinking would you apply if a client asks for a presentation or website, for example, a video production company or similar? So I guess, how would this apply to not just app or product building? How can it apply to all walks of creative production processes? Peter, we'll start with you.
Well, it doesn't matter. It's we are designing for users, correct? So we have to understand their needs. So if it's an experience, just a web experience, the activities and really doing the appropriate research to understand what they need on this experience really applies. So it's really not drastically different. It might be a different way to tell the story. It might be introducing more about the capabilities of that certain experience or certain service that this web experience provides. But other than that, I mean, it's really the same steps. It's really, we are designing for actual humans after all, right? So we definitely understand, how to present the material and the content and the features appropriately.
If we look at a website, and if we look at an existing website, that the first thing you would do is you would do a current state assessment. You would look at it from a heuristic evaluation perspective. You would really want to understand if the buttons are in the right place, if the hierarchy, is it presenting the right information? And that is a very scientific way of doing it. And it might be, it's not very emotional. So what you then want to do is you then want to see the current users. You probably want to see what they're using, how they're using it, maybe speak to a few, understand what they're on the website for. This then goes into the purpose of the product. And then looking at the competition. So these are all those elements that you're looking at. If it's a refresh, a lot of clients may come to us and say, we want it looking like Revolut. We want it looking like this. Well, great, why? So we do personality sessions with them, UI personality sessions. We want to just get under the hood. And a lot of this is about understanding what the users, the end users will want. And so again, a website, an app, a platform, it's all the same in regards to you need to get that empathy in place, understand the pain points, understand the jobs to be done concept, and really get under the hood. I'm going to just I'm going to bore everyone for 5 minutes, well, 2 minutes. We were engaged by a train network in the UK, and this train network, they were getting 100,000 visitors to their platform, and they had 13 platforms. So they had 13 train platforms. And what happened is they were being beat by the competition. The competition was an app, and the app was called the Train Line, and everyone buys on the Train Line. They pay £1.50 booking fees, and they take 97% of all transactions. Now, that 13 train operators came to us, Thameslink, Go Ahead Group, all of these came to us and said, we want to take back a share. We don't know what we're doing wrong with our websites, but why are people buying it on the Trainline app and not coming to us? We can see 100,000 visitors. We can see that's 1.3 million for all of our platforms, but only 25% of them are clicking on the booking widget. And only 33% of them are actually going through and buying a ticket. We can see from the analytics, they're going to the Trainline to buy it. Why? So what we did is we understood what was the purpose of this platform. We understood why this website, why are people coming onto here? And so the first question we asked is, what do people want from a booking widget? If you're going on holiday, what's the first question people are going to ask you? Where are you going? So instead of creating a booking widget that they wanted refreshed and looking good, we put a cover over this booking widget, and we had a question, where do you want to go? That automatically changed it from 25% conversion to 40% conversion from their tests, which means it made them millions with that one change. And that was because we looked at it from the perspective of what was the job to be done, not let's redesign a website, let's do it. We want to understand from the core perspective of the user. Okay, that's my rant over.
Not at all, Mark. Very, very interesting stuff and really, really good insight. Thank you. I am going to move on though, just to make sure that we get these questions in, because there's some really good ones to end on here. So another one from Milan. If you have a client who doesn't see the value of this type of approach, how do you get them on board? Do you use any shortcuts to get results faster and assure that buy-in from a client? So I'm really interested to hear what Nicola has to say on this, but I won't put him on the spot straight away. I'll pass to Peter. We just heard from Mark, so I'll pass to Peter first, and then Nicola, if you want to join in.
Yes, I mean, obviously we need to show value early. So with our process, we definitely, they come to us to really understand it, most of the time to do the research. So we show little value adds along the way at every step we do. So an example is if we conduct interviews, we do readouts like the next day, really to show the value of the key insights. And then we obviously along the way, we show those, different milestones in our process. So we have deliverables on every kind of step in our process. So an example is, I mentioned, if we do interviews, we do readouts. If we do a current state assessment or a heuristic evaluation, we do a readout. And they find value to get the trust on that particular client to understand the value of these insights. And they understand that they are on the board, and it's really, they might have a very distinct vision of what this new experience needs to do. But we bring these, the other side of the coin, as I mentioned, the customer point of view to the conversation. And it typically is, in the co-creation process, it's typically we balance both. And it creates a better product. It's really just empowering them with the knowledge of what the users, what we're hearing from the users.
Excellent, Pierre. Thank you. And then same kind of question to either Nicola or Mark.
Okay.
But if we can, be cool to hear about kind of before we get into the project, kind of at the point of first meeting with the client, without revealing our trade secrets. Kind of how we get that kind of initial thing, how we present this to clients initially.
So I would say kind of there's two parts to it. So kind of our mantra is delight, not only deliver. So kind of you have to have a presentation layer that will delight them or get some buy-in from them to understand that they can get value. And I would also kind of say that you need to encourage them to be part of the process. And design thinking workshops, I would say design sprints, as you guys mentioned, are a perfect short format of a workshop or a series of workshop where you can kind of get that engagement and give them kind of that delight feeling of going through a checklist that they know they are accomplishing something day by day and getting value from it day by day. So I would say kind of engaging them, trying to have them be part of the design sprint, even the high stakeholders in some bigger corporations, is a good way to get that buy-in into the methodology. So organizing a design sprint on a topic is maybe the fastest way to do it.
Yeah, I would like to chime in, Mark, really quickly. So yes, transparency, as I mentioned, we find success bringing our clients along on the journey of design. So just having that visibility of seeing work in progress, ideas being synthesized all the way through, it's powerful. All right, Mark.
Yeah, I would say you show that you care. A lot of our UX product designers get it straight away, understand the subject matter, but you ask those questions. Why are we doing this? What do you want to get out of this? I use a magic wand with every single person I speak to. If you had a magic wand, what do you want next year? What is success? What do you want from this relationship? How can we help you? How can we help your users? And a lot of the time it's financial. A lot of the time it might be ego. A lot of the time it might be making this product better. And so straight away you want to go, well, why? And that is getting to the really under the hood of it and asking those questions. Keep doing the whys, keep challenging, but maybe putting something different on the table for them. Have you thought about doing it this way? This competition is not even in your sector, but they're doing something cool with onboarding. These do data displays. Why are you doing it this way? What is the real purpose? So a lot of those questions we will challenge from the start. And so it saves time later down the line, giving them that value, giving them those ideas without actually giving ideas away yet. We're asking the questions and we're working collaboratively with them straight away. Working with your clients straight away means that you then have a relationship with them and you can be open. And if you've asked those difficult questions to start off with, there's no elephants in the room later down the line. Yes, you will have surprises later down the line, but you've asked the most important questions to start off with.
Great stuff, guys. I'm just conscious of time, so I'm gonna move on to the next question. This is, I think, the highest voted question in the chat, so I'm gonna start off with this one. So sorry, Igor, we'll try and get to you. I know it looks like we skipped you over. So another question from Lan. We are going with an assumption here that we have unlimited time and budget. This is far from a real-world possibility. How do we prioritize how do we prioritize our time and our budget when using this design system? Whoever wants to take that, I'm gonna give it to all three of you, I think.
Well, I'll start with what are we trying to achieve? At the very start of that double diamond, what is the problem? What are we trying to achieve? Let's go out and explore it, and then let's come back in, hone it in, and then we go and prototype. Now we can do that as short and as quick as possible. And as I've said before, when you're speaking to your clients, when you're speaking to the key stakeholders, what's the purpose of this? And so that then prioritizes what we need to do. Do we really need to build out a terms and conditions page that has cascading drop down buttons? Do we need to do searches? Do we need, if the whole purpose of it is to make a transaction, let's focus on the transaction start with, test that out, build around it. And it's showing the value very early and often helps to then get internal buy-in to get more next iterations, more funding. And so what we do a lot with Momentum is we create the buzz and excitement, but we show the value early and often. That value early and often helps organizations to be valued more, to then expose more funding for next iterations. But also, it's not just about the funding, it's about asking the right questions and having the right focus from the start.
Yeah, and the design thinking, so all of the different stages that we have shared today, it's capturing the big ideas as well. So obviously we'll do the prioritization exercises Mark mentioned to say, okay, what is the MVP? But all those great ideas that we collect in the process do not go away. We do a parking lot, we do a roadmap. So that is an iterative approach. So if they, the first MVP is the bare bones experience, but then we have visibility of what comes next. So we have a lot of prioritization exercises in our workshops when we co-create together and help them understand to say, okay, they really want this feature, but they're not ready for it. But we capture it and we add it to the roadmap. So they have visibility of future work. So we have a lot of our clients, we work with them in that manner. We get them up to the initial release, get some key learnings, and yes, we're iterating as we go, but they come back to us and say, okay, now we have budget. We want to do that great feature that we identified in our collaboration at the beginning. Let's do that now. We get that all the time.
Yeah, and I can just add on that that's a continuous process, right? The important thing is maybe not in the initial stage, but down the line to kind of create a value system or a scoreboard for all the features or all the things that you want to do. And some of them are, of course, based on cost and feasibility. Some of them are based on value, getting to the market. Depending, kind of sometimes it's a relationship thing with a potential bigger buyer, right? If you're a B2B product and you just need for a key customer to develop a feature, then it's a relationship-driven type of value system. So we kind of tend to work with our clients to create that, I would say, value board and scoreboard for all the things that we want to do. We learn along the way what our velocities and capabilities for an iteration, and then based on our capabilities, our goals, our roadmap, as Peter mentioned, we kind of try to set priorities and what features, if we build them, will bring the most value to the business. So at the early stages, as you guys mentioned, it's something simple, just putting some version of a feature, but down the road is kind of putting or enhancing the features enough so you're increasing the engagement or kind of solving certain problems where you had low engagement. As Mark was mentioning, fixing a problem after you measured it wasn't performing very well, so you kind of understand what's the value gap for a feature there.
And Nicola, you mentioned it as well. It's about understanding the priorities. Now, design thinking this is the perfect opportunity for personas. This is understanding which personas we want to tackle and solve this problem for. This is customer journey mapping. Get that persona, understand what they do each day, how they go through their flows, what are their pain points and opportunities of using this. And then you can see on paper, you can see academically that ideally we want to be focusing on this area or this area because this is that persona's major pain points or opportunities. And that's where you could focus your time and prioritize within the backlogs.
Excellent stuff, guys. Okay, we've got time, I think, for one more question and then a quick wrap up. So let's go with Igor's question as it's voted up. Do we have any examples where design thinking methodology has failed, and what would we do differently in those times? I'll pass over to Mark.
I didn't hear that. That went down.
Oh.
Sorry again.
My apologies. Do we have any examples where this methodology has failed or not gone quite as well as we'd want it to? And what would we do differently? Or I guess, are there opportunities to do something differently in some projects?
Absolutely. This is about communication. We can do a design thinking approach for 3 months and then create a big experience brief document that gives you, this is everything you need to be doing. And then their internal stakeholders haven't really got a budget to do it, or they've decided that they just want to do something quickly. So this is always about really checking in continually. That is where the learnings come from this. It's, as Peter says, weekly readouts of something, giving them the value, giving the open floor opportunity for all of our stakeholders to discuss this and be on board throughout. Now, as long as stakeholders are learning something from design thinking, it doesn't necessarily mean that this finishes in an end product. They could, for an example, we worked for the Capital Bank of Jordan, National Bank of Iraq. We replayed back to them that 90% of the population are unbanked, and they don't want the latest Revolut banking app. They just want to put their money in an account. And so all of that work, there was a lot of work to design the future vision. We stripped that all back because the one value that came out of this was, let's just get people to sign up to bank accounts. So it's about being responsive, and yes, it can fail, but if we learn from those failings throughout the points, we can then turn it around.
Wonderful stuff, guys. Anything to add, Peter or Nicola? Doesn't sound like it. Okay.
Yeah,
so...
no, I'll just echo. It's all about communication. Mark hit it spot on.
Wonderful stuff. So I'm going to end, just because I don't want to end on a question about things failing. I'm going to end on a quick 2-sentence question for each one of our panelists. So from the kind of initial inception, from speaking to a client, meeting a client and selling this idea, into the end goal of kind of delivering something prototyped and built and validated, of this process, what is your personal favorite part of this process? Nicola, I will chuck it to you first.
I would say for me is kicking off a product in a market with some customers. So kind of going through that ideation phase, once you finish it and have some kind of form of a product, kind of enabling to scrap it up together and go to a market with it. So kind of the first interaction with the market, I would say, and with some real customers, is the most exciting part for me, because I like to build stuff. So kind of when I get to that stage where we build something and somebody's using it, that makes me excited. At least that's my personal favorite part.
Wonderful. Well, it's a personal question, so it's all about what you personally love. Peter?
That is a great question. I guess there's too many, but I will pick one of the stages I really enjoy. I love understanding, doing the current state assessment, and start doing the current journey mapping, and really understanding what's broken, and really matching up the data that we learned in our interviews or our user research, of understanding where in the customer journey there are the points of delight as well as friction, and that gives me a good blueprint of saying those are the areas that we need to design for. The next stage is we go and do ideal state journey mapping, which is answering all those questions to really streamline whatever experience that we're designing for. That process of just going from the current state to the ideal state, it's very it's eye-opening. So that is part of the process that I really enjoy.
Wonderful. And finally, Mark.
Mine's the aha moment, the eureka moment. It's the moment when it switches and it's all crystal clear. Now, that could happen at any point throughout this process, but when a product designer does a abstract view of the client's product, of where it could be or what it could be doing, or why have we not thought about this, that is the value of what we do in design thinking. That is the real value. We've got, I believe, don't quote me, 8 unicorns between HTEC and Momentum that we've touched. Okay, so they've done something right. and we want to be doing lots more of those, and there's lots more on their way to be that scale.
Great way to end. Thank you very, 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 very much to all of our panelists. What a wonderful and fascinating chat that was. And thank you to our audience for listening so brilliantly and asking some really insightful and great questions. That was a really, really, really good chat. There's a final question which I don't have the full answer to, which is, I think it is being recorded, but where will that recording be available, or will it be made available? I don't know if Katharina is still on or can answer that, but I'm sure that that will be followed up with or put in the chat with how that recording will be available. But otherwise, thank you, everybody. These guys deserve a round of applause, but obviously on Zoom we can't do that, so we're just going to have to imagine it for now. And thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Good
thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Goodbye.